I sold it to T-Mobile in 2010. I bought it back in 2014. They often have a place that's too small and too expensive, which doesn't offer the quality they're actually paying for. In total, the project would then amount to just under 600 homes. And that's a really nice size for us. And it also always has to stay fun. Yes, entrepreneurship for a very large part, and especially when you're in the early stages and building things up, just isn't fun.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
Nice to meet you. Jasper. Yes, Pierre Levitsi. Nice, come on in. Yes, thank you. Just to see if it has a homely atmosphere, because I read that you are known for it. Beats that it fits very well in the office. Okay, we'll end up in the kitchen right away. You're always good to your staff, aren't you?
I also ask a lot from my staff, so I think you have to give something back for that. So I think as an employer, that's just part of it. You can't just ask, you also have to give something in return.
And what can they eat here? Because I really see a fantastic...
We have a whole menu, so it's basically a restaurant menu. There you have the special. The dish of the day on Friday is always, I believe, steak with bread and fried.
That looks good, doesn't it? Yeah, right? Sesame steak and...
They can also decide completely for themselves, so it's not... You can eat very healthy here if you want, but you can also have a hamburger every day. That's really up to everyone. No employers only offer vegetarian food or anything like that. These days, sometimes you do see it.
I visit a lot of companies, but I haven't seen it like this before.
A while ago, I think about 14 years ago, I was at Google in Mountain View. They had this, but even more extensive. And back then I thought, well, I do believe in it. Also, for example, with breakfast, you make sure that people come in early, relax, have some breakfast first, and then start working. And if you don't have that, someone just comes in and immediately starts working at their computer. And I do believe in just starting the day relaxed, having a nice meal, and then getting to work. And we also have some corners where people can relax a bit.
A well-stocked fridge, a nice office like this. Thank you for having us here. Father of 3 beautiful daughters. Before we make the leap to entrepreneurship, where you also had a bit of luck. For the viewers who don't know you yet, who haven't followed you, could you briefly introduce yourself?
I'm Jasper de Rooij, 54 years old. I still feel young, but of course I'm actually quite old. I've been together with Angela for 27 years now, 24 of which we've been married. I still like her, and I think she still likes me too. That's a good sign. Yes? Indeed, 3 daughters. 23, 21, 19.
But they also experienced the whole process of that sale, didn't they?
You mean the sale of Simpel?
Of Simpel, yes.
Well, we did it twice. We sold in 2010 and in 2020. Yes, they were aware of that. But not very actively though, because I'm not... Look, the things I experience during the day, business-wise, I do bring some of that home, of course. And I do tell my wife about it. But I don't need to relive everything all over again. So I'm pretty good at switching off and just enjoying being at home with family and dealing with the home dynamic.
Well, at a certain point, they do read in the newspapers, or probably more likely on online media channels, given their age. Hey, you know, Dad has actually managed over the years to accumulate quite a significant fortune, which is honestly pretty impressive when you think about it. How did you deal with that as a father?
Pragmatically, I think. I'm quite open, and at a certain point you end up, for example, on the quote 500 list. Of course, they hear about that too, because it's almost always friends who have read about it. Or they've heard it through the grapevine at some point. Yeah, we're pretty relaxed about it. We have a really good life. They notice that too, of course. So we take really nice vacations together. We live in a beautiful home, so you could say that they're spoiled. On the other hand, we've always taught them. And I think that's going really well. And that's how I see it myself too. Just because you've happened to have a bit more success than someone else, that doesn't make you better than anyone else. So we, Anya and I, as parents, but also the children, they know very well that someone who comes to collect our garbage, they shouldn't feel superior to that person. Because that person also works incredibly hard. And they've just had a different path in life. Yeah, they really have a lot of luck. And actually, all of us here are already lucky. Because if you live here, if you're born in the Netherlands, that's already pretty fortunate. And then on top of that, you just need to have some luck as well.
And suppose if I were to call one of your daughters and ask, describe your father, how would they describe you?
You know, I've actually done quite a lot of interviews, and you also really have those standard job interview questions. How would a friend of yours describe you? But I've never had this one before in an interview. I haven't missed a single important moment. I'm generally optimistic, have a positive outlook on life, and always try to help find solutions if they ever have a problem. I don't have much patience for fuss, but I think they see me as a very involved, warm, and truly loving father. I hope so, but I assume they do.
Yes, absolutely. Listening to all this and getting to know you a little like this, I think things will turn out just fine. Let's talk a bit about your entrepreneurship. You've already had a lot of businesses. We don't really need to go into that too much. Simple. Let's just keep it nice and simple. I read a few interviews about you, and the word luck has come up several times, even now. And you refer to that a lot as well. We've also just had a bit of luck, and entrepreneurs also just need a bit of luck. Can you explain to me exactly what you mean by that?
Well, what I always kind of feel, I have to say, for example, I don't read management books either, because there are always books that explain how to achieve a certain kind of success, written by entrepreneurs who have often been very successful. I really believe that you have to do a lot of things right. You've also been an entrepreneur yourself. Before you start a business, before you become successful, build a business that does well, and then also sell it successfully. You just have to have done a lot of things right. It doesn't happen just because you got lucky. Often the main reason a business does well is that you manage to introduce the right product at the right time, under the right economic circumstances. That you also get lucky a few times during that period of entrepreneurship. I started Simpel in 2007. At that time, the average price for a mobile subscription was 60 euros.
Very highly positioned, very high.
So at that particular time, if you offered a more affordable and cheaper option, you could really set yourself apart from all those companies that were selling it at a much higher price. Back then, and this is even more the case nowadays, you really had to deal with online reviews existed, but they weren't nearly as important yet, which meant you could, and that's how I positioned Simpel, and you could say that's partly luck, but I also did it well. From the very beginning, I wanted to build a very consumer-friendly company where the rates were completely transparent, fair, clear, affordable, and without any tricks. Yes, now every operator offers almost unlimited data, SIM-only plans for 10 euros. You can get everything for that price. Sure, you could enter the market for 8 euros, but then you'll never build the kind of company that I have built now. I sold it to T-Mobile in 2010. I bought it back in 2014. For a while, I also ran it in an earn-out for T-Mobile. Yes, at first I really enjoyed it, but it became very corporate. And I had already told my wife that I really wasn't enjoying it anymore, that I actually wanted to quit in 2013. And then there was someone in Germany who thought there were too many brands in the Netherlands, and it had to be sold. And basically, they could only either buy me out or sell it to me. And then I was able to buy it back very well. But if that man in Germany had come up with that idea 6 months later, then I would have been gone. I wouldn't have been able to buy it back.
You do kind of force your own luck that way.
Yes, you do force it. You have to do a lot of things right, but you also just need to have some luck. If Uber had started 3 years ago with all the rising interest rates and the economic crisis that's kind of happening, they would never have survived. Because they were in a period. They had 10 years to do business where money was just being thrown at them. And that period is over now. You can see it with gorillas.
Yes, absolutely.
If we had done this 10 years ago, it's actually quite a good concept. But yeah, you have to start something like that when the economy is doing well. And then you just have the wrong timing. It can be an insanely good idea. I really believe that people want to have their groceries delivered faster and faster. It's about convenience. But yeah, in times like these, it just doesn't work as well.
There's also a topic I'd really like to touch on for a moment, because you say I don't read management books. I assume that also means you don't use coaches, that you teach yourself everything.
Well, I always find that difficult because, look, I think that if I were to start coaching, I might actually be good at it because at least I've experienced it all myself. It's a bit arbitrary what I'm saying because a gynecologist, a male gynecologist, has never had a child himself. Yet he knows quite a lot about it. So it could be that a coach who has never been an entrepreneur can still give you really good entrepreneurial advice. but I don't really believe in it that much, even though I have a lot of friends who use coaches these days. Yeah.
Exactly. It's also a growing phenomenon in the Netherlands. It's actually quite shocking because it's also a question we get quite often. All the young professionals rely on coaches. And that's also a message we really want to get across. Student for life, that's one of the things I often say. Fall flat on your face and learn from it. You don't need to have everything spoon-fed to you. Learn from trial and error. How do you see that?
Well, that's what we were just talking about with those kids. My children could accuse me of never having taught them that, but it's also a bit of a sign of the times. Everything is quite protective these days. And I really agree with that. In the end, you learn the most by falling flat on your face once in a while, and falling flat on your face again, and going through that, being willing to take risks as well. But also to then recognize and seize the opportunities.
That's what you learn the most from.
Yeah, I used to find public speaking really difficult. And it went really far because I even found introducing myself in a meeting hard as well. And I know that I used to do that a lot with my brother. I've worked with my brother very often. And then I would say, okay, I had an agreement with him that if I introduce myself and get stuck, then you take over. Well, of course, I had that all sorted out. I could have used a coach to teach me how to speak in public, but I thought, I'll just do it every time, and I'll do it even more, yes. And then at a certain point, you learn it, and then you have certain tricks that make it easier. And in the beginning, it's still a bit of an act. And then at a certain, you grow into that role, and then that role becomes a part of your personality, and then it actually goes really well. Well, I believe in that more than in doing those kinds of things with a coach.
Exactly, trial and error, that's very important. Yes?
And it also always has to stay fun. Yes, entrepreneurship for a very large part, and especially when you're in the early stages and building things up, just isn't fun. When you're in the middle of it, looking back on such a period afterwards, you think, well, that was a cool time. Because back then I was struggling and we did this and that, and we were almost bankrupt, but still managed to get through it. But when you're right in the middle of it, it's actually pretty tough.
I used to work at the newspaper Metro, the free paper. And I had a colleague back then who had Simpel as a client. And I still remember that the payment terms were not always met.
Well, they were never met because we were clients from 2007 to 2010, and we started at the end of 2006. We actually just had a crappy contract with KPN. And with every customer we brought in, we lost money. And we even had to pay money to acquire those customers. And we had a financier who actually didn't have the reach he himself thought he had due to the market conditions. Because in 2008, the economic crisis hit. So we were constantly short on cash. And through a process of trial and error, we managed to successfully build that company. The
company, you bought it back in 2014, and then you thought yourself, how did the process of the eventual sale go? Because that took place in 2020.
2020, well, in the last few years before the sale, we actually had quite a bit of trouble with T-Mobile just to renew the contract properly each time. We always managed, but we were getting bigger and we're also a bit tougher in negotiation. And we also became important for T-Mobile, so T-Mobile was also tough in negotiations.
But what do you mean being tough in negotiations? What do you
mean by that exactly? Well, tough in negotiations. I just felt that we deserve certain rates because of our volume. And I simply played that card. So I also made sure to approach KPN. I also made sure to approach Vodafone. Well, and T-Mobile didn't like that. And it was also a bit of a game. Yeah, and if you then drop a hint like, well, I'd be open to possibly selling. And there's also a private equity firm involved as a shareholder. Yeah, then a party will bite. T-Mobile really wanted to become #1 in the Netherlands. Yeah, and they also didn't want us to be sold to KPN or Vodafone. So they bought us.
Yeah, because you also had fantastic EBITDA, right? I read somewhere it was 30 million.
Yeah, like that, a little above.
Yeah, that's insane. And then you get a nice multiplier on top of that, right?
Yeah, it's telecom, so there's a good multiplier on top.
You're an entrepreneur, you come up with something new again. Or did you already know this? Did you already know during the sale that you would go into real estate?
No, but at a certain point, look, it's not like I sold in 2020, and that was the first time money came in. But when you start building wealth, real estate is always kind of
almost something you have to be in.
Yeah, if you have a certain allocation mix, then real estate is always part of that. So I invested in real estate. But it was funny because I actually had kind of the same feeling about it as I did when I started with Simple. Namely, we were selling subscriptions for 10 euros a month. Compare that to a rental contract of 1,100, 1,500, 1,400, doesn't matter, per month. You'd expect to get much better quality for that, actually. A much better relationship with your landlord. The average tenant doesn't even know who they're renting from. They don't get good quality and have no relationship with their landlord. They often have a place that's too small and too expensive, which doesn't offer the quality they're actually paying for. And since I was already in real estate myself, I thought maybe I can create a certain concept out of that. Buy a location, get the permits, assign it a nice residential purpose, and actually create beautiful homes there, where the consumer not only rents the home from me, but also other services. Like what? Mobility, washer and dryer, furniture, telecom, concierge services. You name it, basically everything you need in your home. Things you could buy or rent or lease or use. You could get all of that from me as well. So it really becomes a customer who, even when they move out of my apartment to another apartment or another house, they still take those services with them. And I enjoy bringing that to the market in a different way, much more from a brand perspective. So I don't really see myself as a real estate guy or anything, even though we're quite big in real estate, because I see myself much more as a brand builder. And that I'm actually doing what should have been done in this market a long time ago, which is simply treating tenants properly. And I really believe that if landlords, especially the bigger players, had done things better, then you wouldn't have all this hassle with regulation now. In a certain municipality where we are developing, they want to have large projects. So more than 100 homes per project. But it's also convenient for all your services. If you offer cleaning services to your tenants, then it's easier to have 100 homes in one building than 10. I
See another huge complex again. What's going on here?
These are still offices for now, and we have bought these 3 buildings with permits. And here in Rijswijk, we're going to create 244 apartments. We're still negotiating over this tower. To be honest, I do expect that we'll reach an agreement. In total, the project would then amount to just under 600 homes, and that's a really nice size for us. Because, as we just discussed, it allows us to provide all our services in a good way.
If you want to get involved here, you also need a certain network. Your network used to be very much in telecom. Yes, but at a certain point when the market knows you're buying and you've already bought a few projects, then everyone knows how to find you.
And especially now because not much is being bought at the moment. I believe we closed this deal in March or April. I honestly don't think there have been very many deals of this particular size or magnitude, at least not recently.
Okay, so what should I think of with a deal like this?
Well, including construction, I think around 60 million or so. 60 million.
That's quite a significant investment. Yes.
And we're a private party. We're not an institutional party.
Would you like to say thank you?
Yes, you're welcome. I really enjoyed it. You had great questions. Actually, I didn't feel like it at first.
Oh, really?
Yes, no, really. But in the end, I really enjoyed doing it, okay? I
also enjoyed being able to interview you.
So it's mutual. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for your time.